Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a text on the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, want to make six figures working for Katie Wilson? Is it actually worth it if you're going to have to be working for Katie Wilson? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Last night, President Donald Trump gave a speech from the White House talking about allegations of problems of voter integrity here in the United States. Now, what I find entertaining about this is all the networks that refuse to cover it. Last night, I went over into Kevin's little goldfish bowl over there. He's got all the TVs on of all the networks. Fox had it on, but some of the other ones didn't have it on. But what I find funny about it is all the networks that didn't have it on have spent all day today trying to debunk what he said. So let me make sure I got this right. You're not going to give any airtime to what he said because you think he's lying. You think he's full of it. You think he's been disproven time and time again. But then you spend all day long today playing clips and talking about it. I'm sorry, guys. I don't see the logic. I really, really don't. Now, what President Trump was talking about, you have to really dig into it and really dive into it. A lot of this stuff we have heard before. But to me, the biggest allegation President Trump made last night, which was backed up with documentation, was basically a massive, massive data loss, a massive data hack by enemies of the United States, Iran, China, and others. Now, this is like those letters you get in the mail, your data has been compromised. Sometimes it's a no big deal. Sometimes it's a very big deal. Sometimes you don't find out until later. That is a really, really big deal. But our system is vulnerable. And what I can't get over is how if I have this argument with some of my Democrat friends, they will always say, it's lies, it's lies, it's lies. I go, okay, then show us the voter rolls if it's lies. No, we don't have to do that. He's going to get our data. I'm like, the IRS already has your data, friends. You are on so many databases, in so many databases. Hey, by the way, do you have social media? Did you agree the terms and conditions of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these other platforms? Because if you're not paying for them, you are the product. They're giving out your data all the time. They're selling your data all the time. That's how they make money, guys. That's how they do it. You are on so many federal databases, you have an FBI file. Even if you've done nothing wrong in your life, you have a file with the IRS. You have a file with immigration. You have a file with everybody. You are in everybody's database if you are a tax-paying, Social Security earning citizen of this country. So let's throw that out the window. Oh, he's going to get our data. But then there's something else, is that are people illegally voting in the U.S.? And even if they're not illegally voting in the U.S., shouldn't you want to make sure that they can't illegally vote in the U.S.? This is why this is an 80-20 issue. For me, I've seen cases of voter fraud. I've seen allegations of voter fraud. I see how voter fraud can happen. Let's do an example right here of things that have happened to me personally. My oldest son moved to Israel, is now an Israeli citizen, and yet he is still getting ballots for the United States. Now, you're going to say, well, of course he can, because he's also still a U.S. citizen. Yes, my son actually does have two passports. He's the only member of my family that does. But when he was living here, before he moved to Israel, do you know how he registered to vote? He registered to vote online without showing any form of ID whatsoever. No form of ID at all. And guess what? He was going to school in Israel at the time. And he was able to register to vote. Never had to produce any form of identification whatsoever. Now, my son happens to be a U.S. citizen. So, not a big deal. But imagine somebody else who's more nefarious doing something like that. Let's take my second son for a minute. A form came in the mail for him to register to vote. Okay, fine. They ask for a signature so that way they know you're a real person. They can verify your signature after that. What I find entertaining about this is the fact that let's say that went to the wrong house. Let's say that went somewhere else. Let's say it was a made-up person like we've seen happen before. That means it can now come to me. I can fill it out however I want. I can create the signature, and boom, I am now legally registered in Washington State. Now, those are a little bit more difficult. By that, I mean they take a little bit more effort. Now let's do the things we know are happening. We know that when you register a car, when you get a driver's license, when you register a trailer here in Washington State because of motor voter laws, you are in many cases automatically registered to vote. And you do not need to be a citizen of the United States in order to get a driver's license or to register a vehicle or to register a trailer. So now you've got an interesting problem. Steve Hobbs, in interviews before, acknowledges that's the case and basically says, well, it's Scout's honor. And then you have Nick Brown out there saying, oh, these things are extremely rare, and yet we have covered these incidents when they have happened. I remember, I think it was 26 people were actually found to be doing this out in Yakima not too long ago, even though Nick Brown says it doesn't happen, and they declined to prosecute them. Why'd they decline to prosecute them? Because then they have to admit there's a problem. I think this was back when Bob Ferguson was still Attorney General. Because if they actually prosecute these guys, then they have to admit there's a problem. Let's look at the election day itself. Votes can come in after election day. Now the Supreme Court has actually cited that they can too. You have no idea where they're coming from. Do you know what Shama Sawant and her lovable band of lunatics do? They set up tents. They print out ballots. You can register the same day to vote. So you can walk up to that tent with no ID whatsoever. You can register to vote on the spot through the website, like my son did, and then they can print out a ballot and they can turn it in for you. Is that a secure election? You know the answer to that as well as I do. And what happens if I walk up to a Shama Sawant tent and I vote the other way? Are they going to lose my ballot? Now you have a chain of custody issue because I voted against something they wanted, and there is no election official there to check any of this, to supervise any of this, to watch any of this. This is all stuff that actually happens. And then I ask you this. Washington State has 8 million citizens in it, according to the numbers that we have. Went from 7 to 8 million. We have 8 million citizens. Yet it takes us a month to finish counting all the votes from election night. Israel, 9 million people who are citizens of Israel. They get their election results in a few hours through paper ballots, through proof of citizenship, through voter ID. France, that we have to save. Anytime the Germans get antsy, we have to save France. France counts 30 million ballots in just a few hours. And yet here in Washington, it takes us weeks to count 8 million. Those are the problems we know about. So what was President Trump talking about last night? John Solomon from Just the News found documents and went through declassified documents showing that starting during the 2020 election cycle, China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. Does this mean they voted? No. But this now means they have your data, including names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other activities. U.S. counterintelligence agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states was bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet the information was kept hidden. The Chinese government's strategy was focused on undermining domestic confidence in President Trump. They sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively about President Trump and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles. Interesting. Fascinating. Also turns out that China was trying to make all the race relations and all the unrest here in the U.S. worse. Do you remember what was going on in 2020? Do you remember what was going on during the summer of love? You had the riots. In the aftermath of the death of George Floyd. We had all the riots that rocked Seattle. We had the autonomous zone. And those riots didn't stop for months. Granted, there weren't many people on the roads because of COVID, but if you were on the roads, you never knew if your road was going to be shut down that day or your bridge was going to be shut down that day because a whole bunch of people protesting for racial justice were out there on the roads talking about how they want to end America. A lot of that was funded by China. You ever wonder why these guys all had identical signs and they were ready to go immediately? Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, and that's why President Trump published previously classified U.S. intelligence assessments, proving the government long knew about cyber threats of voting systems. One assessment stated, we judge the United States adversaries, including a minimum of Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. So, now they have all our data. They can do whatever they want with it. This is what the mainstream media was ignoring last night. It seems like the mainstream media wants to try and pretend that China is our friend. China is not our friend. They are a geopolitical enemy on the world stage. So, these guys were messing around in our elections. They were messing around in our journalism. And now they have a whole bunch of our data. A massive data breach. Friends don't do that to each other. How do you combat what's going on with China? Number one, secure the data. Number two, have a bigger military than the other guy because then they don't want to start a fight with you. Number three, we keep propping up their failing economy. They are a communist country, but because we buy their cheap goods, they have a lot of influx of our cash to pay for their nefarious schemes and their military and their government. Because all those Chinese companies, where does all the money go? To China, because it's a communist country. So instead, what we need to do is have partnerships with other countries that can make that cheap stuff or make it here at home. That's what you need to do. We need to cut them off from the rest of the world's economy. Don't forget, China has also been supplying Iran with weapons. So has Russia. During the last round of military strikes against Iran, I don't know why we didn't do this months ago, the U.S. bombed a lot of the train tracks that were running over land from Russia and China to Iran, coming that direction from their allies, from the people they work with, from the axis of evil to resupply them. You wonder, how do they keep having all these ballistic missiles if we blew up all their ballistic missiles? Because they're getting more and more. Why we didn't blow that up to begin with? Absolutely beyond me. So the mainstream media will say this is all conspiracy theories. But a lot of these documents are not new. A lot of these documents have actually been out there for a while through other people's reporting. But the media didn't want to cover it. We also found out yesterday, Department of Homeland Security, in conjunction with other agencies and some state governments, found that states like Pennsylvania, California, New Jersey have hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens on the voter rolls. Over 250,000. Now let's look at the 2024 election for my friends on the left. President Donald Trump may have won 7 swing states. He did. But if you look at how much he won them by, they weren't blowout margins. Sure, it was an electoral college victory and an electoral college sweep. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's because groups that hadn't voted before showed up to vote. And because they showed up to vote, they pushed President Trump across the finish line. So what happened there is when Scott Presler got the Amish, or Charlie Kirk was doing what he was doing in Arizona, Scott Presler doing what he was doing in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and other places, This moved races. This moved the needle. And as a result of that, President Trump won the election. So if you have illegal aliens, non-citizens, voting in those kind of numbers, it could push it the other way as well. And all you need is a small margin in order to do that. But the left knows that, which is why they don't want to talk about this. This is why they don't want to talk about this. This is why they don't want to cover this. Here's Secretary Mark-Wayne Mullen earlier today revealing this information.
So first of all, Department of Homeland Security, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in just 4 states. Mind you, we have 46 other states. And just 4 states, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada. We also worked with proactive states to identify 28,000 non-citizens on their voter rolls, plus 400,000 individuals that are still registered to vote that are deceased. Now, these 23 states, they proactively worked with us on the SAVE program. That's Georgia, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, North Carolina, Idaho, Alabama, Missouri, Louisiana, Kansas, Arkansas, Wyoming, Montana, Iowa, Florida, South Dakota, Indiana, Arizona, South Carolina, Utah, Nebraska, Michigan, and my great home state of Oklahoma.
Does that sound like a secure election to you? Does that sound like a safe and secure system? Pat says over on the text line, Ari, 2 words explain why it takes so long to count that many ballots compared to Israel and France. Public education. Very good, Pat. Very, very good. But what's happening here is our data is at risk. I think President Donald Trump made one mistake last night. I think he made one mistake. Him giving the address. Now, you think he's got the bully pulpit and he's got the weight of the White House. But the problem is the media is already hardwired against him. Anything voter fraud oriented. And mind you, they were all covering it today, even if they didn't cover it last night. But I think when this information comes out, will they still say, oh, Mark-Wayne Mullen, he was appointed by Trump. He's a member of that cabinet. He's in on it. Yeah. But I think if this had been put out in press releases, not on a Thursday night, because then you have it on the Friday, which is take out the trash day, because newspapers only have so many column inches to print over the weekend, and nobody wants to work over the weekend. They're going to bury the story. I think this should have been done on a Monday in a news release from multiple federal agencies and not the president. And I think it should have been a whole document reveal and a document dump. Look at it for yourself. I think that by injecting the president or the president injecting himself, he wants to say, look, I was right. You know he's going to be right by the reveal of the documents, but I think the media would have had a better chance of covering it that way. But the fact that the media will not cover a presidential address when there are documents to back it up because they don't like what he has to say tells you everything about the media. We have had people on the show who have lied to my face before. And then I get to confront them, and I get to call them out, and we get to analyze them. We get to have the whole discussion. Joe Wynn sat in that chair right there and told me the Climate Commitment Act was not going to spike gas prices. Sat right there. Todd Myers called him out. We had a debate between the two of them. I called him out, and now I get to play those clips anytime I want. The media is still playing the clips, even though they disagree with the president. Thing here is we have a massive problem. It is an 80-20 issue on voter ID. The SAVE Act can fix this. The Democrats are refusing to fix it. What is their only motivation? Why? They know it will actually secure elections. They know it will actually make sure there's voter ID. And then you know there is less of a chance of these shenanigans happening. Our data was breached. That doesn't mean anybody actually interfered with the election process, but it now means that our enemies have all of the data that the federal government has. To me, that is the scarier thing, and that's the bigger bombshell news from last night. That China and Iran and North Korea and other countries like that now have our data. That is a national security risk. And don't you want to prevent the possibility that they mess with our elections? Absolutely. Give me your thoughts by texting us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Speaking of enemies of this country, Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson is looking for a new communications director. You want to make a lot of money working for her? Do you think it's worth the money? We'll discuss when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Who wants to go work for Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson, Mayor Fivehead? Who wants to go do it? I know you guys want to, right? She's hiring a new communications director. If you are posting this on social media, you have a problem. You are so desperate you're going to social media to get this. Now, I know legally you have to list jobs. When you are hiring for somebody, you have to post them on the website. I know, even if you have somebody in mind you want to hire for that, you don't have to share it on social media. You don't have to. So the post says it's got a picture of Mayor Katie Wilson standing there smiling. We're hiring a communications director. Work with Mayor Wilson. For more information and to apply, visit governmentjobs.com/careers/Seattle. Now, how much does this job actually pay? Well, let's see. Let's just go to the salary here. I've pulled this up in front of me. $164,868.48 to $272,087.28 annually. Okay, Kevin, I quit. I quit. I'm going to go work for Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson. I'm going to make $272,000 a year working for her. Watch, I can do the job. Ready? Here's what the communication director does. All right, Chris Daniels comes on over to me. So Chris Daniels comes walking over. Mayor Wilson, I'd like to ask. Nope. but I want to ask. Nope. No. But I want to talk. Nope. Not going to happen. Not today. Not today. Just move along now. They're going to be like the stormtroopers in Star Wars. Move along. Move along. Yeah, we're not interested. How hard is that? You're a glorified traffic cop. That's it. All you need is a vest and a stop sign. You could be a school crossing guard. That's it. Okay. $272,000 a year? What communications are you doing for her office? It's basically, what do the socialists say? Put it into a press release, put it out there in the world, and put it on your website. ChatGPT could do the job for you. This isn't that hard. You know what? I'm applying. You know what? Over the weekend, I am applying for this job, and I want to see how quickly I get rejected. How many rounds do you think I make it through? They say they have in-person interviews the first week of August. Oh, Kevin, this would just be too delicious. I'll go down there. We'll do the whole experience. I'm never going to get hired, right? It's not going to happen. If I wrapped myself in an LGBTQ flag, they wouldn't hire me. I guarantee you they would not. This is going to be so much fun. Have you ever disparaged the mayor? Not today. Not in the last 5 minutes, I haven't. Oh, this is too good. This is too good. Is this like the second or third communications director that she's hiring for? Oh my God. This thing is insane. Absolutely insane. The amount of stuff you hey guys, how many forms of ID you think they need for you to apply for this job? You got to provide your social security number, you got to provide your driver's license, you got to provide, are you a citizen? Are you a citizen of this is great. This is just too delicious. Please briefly describe your experience managing a communications team. Well, I ran a radio show for a couple of years with some help from some people. That'd be good. Please tell us how you have applied a racial equity lens to your work and the impact it had. Well, for me, I don't see color. I see you as a human being, and you're either a good person or you suck. So I don't see race. The position offers flexibility of a hybrid work schedule. Employees will be expected to work in office a minimum of 3 days a week. Wow, this job gets better and better. Yeah, I could do that. The job advertisement requests you attach both a color letter, resume, blah, blah, blah. Where and how did you hear about this position? Well, it was on social media. Oh, this is great. I'm going to apply this weekend. How quickly do you think I get rejected? Seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks? Let us know. This is great. Anna says if you apply for the position Katie Wilson posted, I give it an hour before you're officially rejected. This is great. This is absolutely great. Unbelievable. This one here from Dan Smith. Well, I have absolutely zero experience as a communications director, so I should definitely apply. You know what I should do? I should really dye my hair blue, maybe green. I think the green's more likely to get me the interview, right? Don't you? It's the green hair that will get me the interview. Can't wear that thing on my head. Got to remember to take that thing off. They don't like the Jews in that office. Well, shove that thing in my pocket. Right. We'll walk on in there with the green hair, with the LGBTQ flag. Wait, should I go undercover as my alter ego, Ira, that I went to Kamala Harris's event dressed as? That hipster-looking feller? Yeah. I'll go in there like that. Wait, I could just say I don't need to provide ID. I could just make all this up. Oh, this is going to be too much fun. All right. That's it. This weekend, I'm going to have a couple of old fashions. I'm going to fill out the paperwork. Kevin, 2 weeks notice, giving it in right now. Well, 2 weeks until they reject me, right? Because they actually say the first round of interviews is 2 weeks from now. That's likely what's going to happen. Up next, more of your text, my friends. Plus, did you guys see what happened in Maine's Senate debate last night? It was better than anything SNL could have written. We'll have the insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know the scene in The Wedding Singer when Adam Sandler is all depressed that his fiance left him. So he starts talking about how sad he is and how people who aren't destined to get married like the mutants over at table number 9. Well, it seems like the Democrats, to replace the Nazi tattoo sporting alleged rapist Graham Plattner, decide to bring out the mutants from table number 9 to be their candidates for running to be the next senator from Maine. I tell you, Saturday Night Live could not have written a skit this good these days. Maybe back in the day they could have done it. The mutants that were on stage, holy cow. And the crazy stuff they said. Now, let's start with Maine Democrat Elizabeth Dickerson, who was asked why she's running to be the next senator from Maine.
But I did this because I'm very interested in climate, and President Trump has done about everything he can do to strip away any protections that we have on climate.
Very interested in the climate. That's the biggest problem facing our nation right now, the climate. So you can see it's just check a box. I checked the box for the climate. I'm going to fix the climate. I'm going to save the climate. But my friends, the one who's really going viral is Maine Democrat Ashley Webb. Ashley Webb is a larger man in a dress. Ashley Webb identifies as transgender. Let me tell you what Ashley Webb looks like. Ashley Webb looks like Meatloaf in a dress. And I don't mean Meatloaf from Fight Club. I mean regular Meatloaf. You know, Paradise by the studio lights, that's what we saw happening. Paradise by the podium lights, that's what we saw happening last night. So Ashley Webb, I don't know what Ashley Webb's real name is. Ashley Webb was asked, why are you qualified to be the next senator from Maine?
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books. And then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people, and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like,
ain't no doubt about it. That's a man. I mean, that is a dude. And you're not even pretending, man. That is a dude. Transparency. Was that a play on words there? What was going on there? Yeah. So you're a songwriter. So it is Meatloaf. You're a songwriter and you wrote some books. That makes you qualified to. I wrote some parody songs based on some real life hits. Does that make me qualified to run for senator for Maine? Wait. This gets way better. The questions to this individual just got better and better and better.
and then with the trans community, like, we're being dehumanized. They say that we want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to use the bathroom. And if they want me to use the men's room, I will, but I don't want to be assaulted.
What? What are we talking about here? First of all, that is a giant man. I would not pick a fight with this giant man. That is number one. But what are you talking about? You know, the women who go into the bathroom seeing a giant man come into the bathroom wearing a dress, they'll get freaked out too. What are we talking about here? Are you kidding me? Now, this one was my favorite moment when they asked everybody if they believe in Medicare for all. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Okay, thank you. Phil.
You just said you're for Medicare for all. Is everyone on this panel? Dan, no?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
It's incredible.
Just checking. Just checking. That's 8 for 8 with the candidates tonight.
It's
So
amazing.
I'm actually on Medicare.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it.
They don't even know what to say in response to that. Oh, my God. Saturday Night Live could not have written a skit as good as this. Sometimes I wish we did more video on the show so I could play this clip for you because it's absolutely priceless. Okay. What about some of the more normal candidates on stage up there? I wonder what they were saying.
We need someone who's going to stand up for Mainers. And Graham Plattner was right. The system.
I'm sorry. What? The Nazi tattoo sporting alleged rapist what was he right about exactly? What was he right about? What would you like to quote him on? What were his wise words of wisdom? What was Graham Plattner right about? Unreal. I compare this to Marco Rubio's speech yesterday. Marco Rubio's talking about far left violence, crazy left wingers. I mean, this is a man who sounds presidential versus the people you just heard on stage who want to be senator from Maine.
Through intelligence and information sharing, through coordinated law enforcement strategy, through financial targeting and disruption, we will dismantle these networks brick by brick. It is time for the people of the civilized world to defend ourselves, to stand united against this encroaching darkness and fight for what is ours. It is easy to destroy great things. It is far more difficult to make them. The enemies of civilization are only capable of the former. They are only capable of destroying great things. All they know is destruction. But we have built great things together. We have done it time and again. We know what we must do, and now we must do it. Thank you for coming today.
Okay, so do you prefer Marco Rubio for office or Ashley Webb?
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books. And then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people, and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like,
you mean like how you're trying to deceive people into thinking you're a woman when you're really not? How about this for a second? Do you know why the Democrats are still trailing in the polls, even though the economy ain't doing so great and there's a lot of things that could be doing better here? It's because this is what your choice is between. No matter how much people dislike the Republicans, they look at Ashley Webb and they look at other Democrats and they go, these guys? Really? You think these guys are the ones who are going to fix anything? Nah, not going to happen. This is why Democrats still don't have that support. That's why they're not gaining support, even when President Trump is unpopular. Up next, my friends, a student wanted to use an American flag in school. And yet the kid's public school said, no, we don't like that American flag. We're not going to do it. Woke Report is coming up next. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. there is a student named Luke who's going to be a senior next year in high school in North Carolina. Apparently at this school, and this is actually a very cool tradition, you get to design your own parking spot. What does that mean? You can paint the ground of your parking spot in a design, but the design has to be approved by the school. What was the design Luke wanted? He wanted an American flag on his parking spot, and at the bottom of the American flag, it says, Luke, class of 2027. Now, for me, and we've discussed this before, I don't like painting things on the ground that you care about. I understand the patriotism. I understand the American flag, but your tires are going to screw this thing up, and rain's going to get on it. And I understand it's paint. It's not a real flag. I don't feel it's respectful. And if the school had said, guys, we don't feel that's respectful, you want to put an American flag on a post in front of your spot, fine, I wouldn't be doing this story. That's not what happened. The school district said they can't promote a particular religion, political viewpoint, or patriotic message. This was in Union County Public Schools. According to Corey DeAngelis, the school is Marvin Ridge High School in Union County Public Schools. Here's what they told the student. Good afternoon, Luke. Thank you for submitting your senior parking spot design for approval. We appreciate the creativity and effort you put into your design. After reviewing your submission, we are unable to approve the current design because Union County Public Schools is a public school district, and our parking lots are used by students, staff, families, community members throughout the year for a variety of events. Parking space designs may not include religious messages, symbols, political messages, symbols, or representations of national flags, including the American flag, because as a public school, we must remain viewpoint neutral and avoid displaying artwork that could reasonably be interpreted as endorsing or promoting a particular religion, political viewpoint, or patriotic message. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? So, wait a second. The American flag, which isn't on the flagpole outside that school. Odds are it's not any classrooms of that school. Is it on the flagpole outside that school? You know you guys get federal funding from the United States of America. You know that, right? And yet can't put out a particular patriotic message. This is nuts. This is wokeness run amok. Oh, by the way, Luke is actually planning to enlist in the military to defend this great nation. Now, the pushback, as you can imagine, was massive. Absolutely massive. So then the school writes, we are aware of some social media activity related to a senior's request to paint a U.S. flag on his parking spot. Lincoln County Public Schools respects the U.S. flag and what it represents. A Marvin Ridge High School student's request to paint the American flag on his senior parking space was originally denied due to concerns about the standards of respect and expectation set by the U.S. Flag Code. Okay, if you guys had said that originally, I don't think we'd be having this discussion right now. That's not what you said. What you guys said was religious symbols, political symbols, patriotic symbols. If you said flag code, I'd probably be making this a when the right gets it wrong segment and be talking about how people shouldn't be mad about this. Flag code is flag code. You know, anytime I put up pictures of the flags on my house, somebody always has some little nitpicky critique about how my flags are up and if I violated flag code. And I like to think I'm pretty good about following the flag code. It wasn't about that. It was because they didn't want the American flag on a parking spot, because this school does not want the American flag on campus. Insane. Absolutely insane. Robin Lakewood over on the text line says regarding our last segment, the candidates were so bad that the Democrats may beg Nazi rapist Plattner to come back. Bad, Rob, but funny. Very, very funny. Dan Smith says, Jedi Master Hoffman, you are a man, you are a dude. I am a giant man, I am a dude. That person is neither a man nor a dude. It may be male, but not a dude. Oh, okay. I mean, we don't need to be nitpicky about it, but funny, still funny. All right, Matt Gilbert, this is text of the day. I wish I could show it to everybody. Anytime I say something, he sometimes takes it literally and then does something with it, which is really funny. He said, did you say actual meatloaf in a dress? And he made an AI image of meatloaf in a dress. I don't mean Meatloaf the singer. I mean the food. Meatloaf. Forrest Cat says regarding what Ashley Webb said about writing their own books. Hang on, let's play that clip again. We're going to use this one a lot today. We're going to wear it
Ashley
out.
Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books.
Forrest Cat says, I write my own books means he's never been published. Then everybody here who's talking about how I can get the job in Katie Wilson's office. These are some good suggestions, guys. Okay, so here we go. One person says I need to dye my hair green. Yes, I agree. This one says, don't forget your declaration of stolen land. Ah, yes. I'd like to, before I can see this, I'm going to walk into the office. Hi, very nice to meet you, Mr. Hoffman. Sit down. Before I sit down, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the stolen land of Chief Self's tribe, even though he was a slave owner. And I think we should actually rename the city because he was a slave owner, and we should take down that statue over in front of the 5 Points bar. I think that's what we should do. Do you think I'll get the job, or you think right away they'll reject me? I don't think I'm going to get as far as the lobby. Yes, absolutely. This one here, Forrest Cat says I should go to the interview and identify as trans. No, I want to be my true self. I want to be my true self. Dan says, shave your head, bright red lipstick, and a skimpy black dress. You do not want to see me in a skimpy black dress, my man. I'm a little out of shape, and let's just say the hair ain't on my head anymore, but it's other places. Oh, 253 is mean. 253 said, you have hair? That's not nice. But funny, but funny. I do like that. This is just, oh, you guys are terrible. You guys are terrible. Anywho, switching gears over here for a minute. A lot of you are weighing in on the voter fraud allegations and the voter integrity allegations that President Trump put forward. And look, we can keep going back to this time and time again, but remember what Democrat Alyssa Slotkin said? She was literally saying just a couple days ago the Democrats would never win another election if we have the SAVE Act, which means they would never win another election if they have voter ID. You want to know the other gem she said at the same time?
The place that I ran the first time was a Republican-drawn district that feels a lot like kind of running in Indiana. We know of two, not one, but two fake book clubs. Women who literally told their husbands, husband, I'm going off to book club, and they would come and volunteer at our campaign office.
Are you saying they're too afraid of their husbands to go vote, to have their political stuff? Okay, I don't know about you. I don't think these are real relationships. You know why? Every husband I know, including myself, we're petrified of our wives. We love our wives. We adore our wives. We put our wives up on pedestals. I ask my wife permission for things. I assume the rest of you do that too, okay? So I don't know. I don't know what she is talking about here. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But this is back to that campaign commercial. You remember that old campaign commercial, which the Democrats were running, which show how out of touch they are because they don't know what a real relationship is anymore. They had the woman and the husband, and he goes, all right, you know who to vote for, right? And she goes, yes. And then she gives a look to another woman, and they both circle the box for Kamala. And, like, it shows how out of touch you guys are. Most couples agree on politics. Most couples don't disagree on politics. But also, most men are afraid of their wives. Most men do what their wives say. That's how it goes. Spare me your woke nonsense. Up next, lots more to discuss as the show continues. My voter's guide is out, and another company might be about to bail on Seattle. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour is another big company gearing up to leave the Seattle area. All the signs are there. But before we get to anything else, my friends, with Bob Ferguson's taxes, you are going to need some extra cash in your pocket. So it is your chance to take the trip or keep the cash, my friends. That's right. Today, we are giving away $3,000 or a Mississippi River cruise. That's right. Sweet, soft sounds of our in-house Pink Floyd cover band tells us it's your chance to win. All you have to do is text the word I give you to the number I give you. Do not text your name. Do not text your address. Do not text your phone number. Do not text Ari Hoffman. You are the most gorgeous radio host I've ever seen in my life. Just the word itself. And you will be entered for your chance to win. Today's word is marsh. As in, when you go down the Mississippi River cruise, you might see a marsh. M-A-R-S-H. Text the word marsh to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. Also, while you are texting things, my friends, just want to remind everybody, I know your ballots are dropping this weekend. Your ballots are dropping this weekend. And a lot of you have already reached out with asking me for my recommendations, my endorsements of who to vote for. Well, I have a surprise for you. Our voter guide for KVI is entirely online. It is on KVI.com right now. You can check it out. But if you want it sent directly to you, you can text the word VOTE to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. If you text the word VOTE, we will send you the KVI voters guide. And if there is a race you don't know about or a race that's not there, email me, ari@kvi.com, and I will try to help you out. I can't endorse, I can't recommend in every race. I don't know every race. So sometimes there's some races going on. You reach out to me. I'll do my research. I'll try to get you an answer, and I will update the guide. Okay? So text the word VOTE to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And you will get my voter's guide, and it will help you out. And now, my friends, time for a story you're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
So we had all those public records requests, which showed that Starbucks had warned Bob Ferguson, had warned him about what his taxes were going to do to the economic environment around here. Well, he wasn't the only one. One of our amazing listeners did a public disclosure request as well, but it wasn't for Starbucks' docs. It was for T-Mobile's. For those of you who don't live in the area, T-Mobile has a very big, very pink headquarters out in Bellevue. You see it when you're going to AMC Factoria. I love that movie theater, by the way. They got the reclining seats, and it's cheaper than the other AMCs. I love that movie theater. So, anywho, T-Mobile privately warned Washington lawmakers that the state's tax policies were making it more expensive to keep employees, and decision makers in Washington, adding another major employer to the list of companies raising concerns about the state's business climate. In a March 2nd letter to Representative April Berg, the Democrat from Mill Creek, T-Mobile U.S. CEO Srini Gopalan asked lawmakers to repeal the advertising services portion of Washington's expanded sales tax on services, which was passed as part of Turd Ferguson's largest tax increase in state history. The tax was enacted through Senate Bill 5814, the 2025 measure that expanded Washington's retail sales tax to a range of previously untaxed services, including advertising. Critics said the legislation increased costs for businesses, nonprofits, healthcare providers, childcare organizations, schools, and other institutions already facing rising expenses. T-Mobile argued that the advertising portion of SB 5814 created a structural disadvantage for businesses headquartered in Washington because the tax is based on where advertising services are received and used. Quote, companies headquartered in Washington with marketing teams or decision makers located here incur this tax on creative advertising services. Companies headquartered outside Washington do not. So you're basically penalizing a business for being here. T-Mobile said the burden applied directly to the Bellevue-based telecom giant because part of its marketing operation remains in Washington. Quote, as one of the largest purchasers of creative advertising services in the country, T-Mobile faces an additional tax burden as a result of currently having part of our marketing team based in Washington. This results in an unintended competitive disadvantage for companies that choose to headquarter and employ workers in our state. The company's government affairs team followed up by supplying lawmakers with specific amendment language that would repeal the sales taxation of creative advertising services enacted under Senate Bill 5814. So this is interesting. They didn't say get rid of the whole thing. They said, we know you want your taxes, but can you make things better for us? Okay, look, a company is going to look out for its own self-interest. They even gave them replacement language. They weren't lobbying in favor of the broader tax package. It was asking the lawmakers to remove a single provision that penalized Washington employers. Representative Mari Levitt, Democrat from University Place, the only one who's right on the Democrat side of the aisle these days, later called Senate Bill 5814 a failed policy and said the partial rollback enacted by lawmakers did not go far enough. She called the bill a disaster of policy, writing on social media, we were able to repeal a portion. The entire bill must be repealed in order to provide real relief. I called it the kitchen sink bill because it's everything but the kitchen sink or everything thrown into the kitchen sink. Either way. Internal legislative emails also show Levitt supported the T-Mobile-backed repeal amendment during the session, writing that she strongly supported it, wanted to introduce it if it had not already been included in the House's working version of the bill. The warning carried added weight because of the company's geographic flexibility. T-Mobile maintains a distributed corporate structure with roughly 3 major secondary campuses in Kansas, Texas, and Georgia outside of its Bellevue headquarters, along with another 2 or 3 significant offices. In February, T-Mobile laid off nearly 400 workers in Washington while continuing to hire elsewhere in the country, particularly in Kansas. The company employed approximately 70,000 people nationwide as of December 31st, 2024, including nearly 8,000 workers in the Seattle region. The contrast underscores how easily future hiring and investment could be directed toward T-Mobile's other established campuses instead of Washington. The company didn't threaten to leave Washington. However, this is very, very similar to what happened with some other companies around here. Starbucks, we know, reduced its Seattle headquarters workforce while developing a 250,000 square foot Nashville office, which is going to have 2,000 employees. Meanwhile, how many are they firing over here? Starbucks founder Howard Schultz also changed his domicile to Florida as Washington Democrats advanced a 9.9% income tax on earnings over $1 million, which is eventually going to hit everybody. Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Oracle, and other tech companies have collectively eliminated tens of thousands of Washington jobs. Seattle area tech layoffs have surpassed 20,000, while Meta has abandoned or reduced office commitments, and Amazon has shifted thousands of workers from Seattle to Bellevue to avoid Seattle's taxes, and now they may be shifting them out of state as well. Washington's unemployment rate reached 5.2% in June, compared with 4.2% national rate. The state lost 1,200 jobs between June 2025 and June of 2026, with June's monthly increase driven largely by government hirings and hirings in leisure and hospitality rather than technology, manufacturing, or professional services. T-Mobile's letter shows that the warnings were not only coming from Republican lawmakers, trade groups, or conservative critics. This is one of Washington's largest employers, and they were begging for help, absolutely begging for help. You know what Turd Ferguson, the Democrat, said?
Yeah, well, who gives a damn?
That's what they said. That is what they said. They didn't care at all. The Democrats do not care about you at all in the state. They can't wait to tax you. They cannot wait. You want to know how bad it is? Here's Bob Ferguson today. Bob Ferguson. Wait a second. Bob Ferguson. He's going to get mad if I say his name wrong, right?
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson posted this on social media today. $342. That's how much a new congressional report shows Washington households have paid in higher gas prices since President Trump started his war in Iran. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Full stop right there. Aren't you the guy who helped implement the Climate Commitment Act, which spiked gas prices by over 50 cents a gallon? How come our gas prices are $1.30 $1.30 more expensive than Idaho. That's not federal taxes. That's state taxes. They're right next door. Never mind what diesel costs, by the way, which is even more astronomical. Aren't you the guy who told utility companies around here not to show that it was the Climate Commitment Act that was spiking everybody's utility prices? In fact, you told them to hide it. And when I did a public disclosure request for those documents, you redacted every single page. You do not get to complain about gas prices. You made them ridiculously high. I'm not going to say the war in Iran hasn't affected them, but that's nothing compared to the impact you guys have had on gas prices. $1.30 easy, more expensive than other nearby states.
Yeah, well, who gives a damn?
Well, clearly you're trying to on social media. He's getting ratioed to oblivion, by the way, with this post on social media. Something more by our friend Elon over on social media. Washington's new millionaire tax contains a sentence you rarely see in the statute. The legislature ordered the Department of Revenue to keep spending your money building the tax system, quote, regardless of litigation. Wait a second. So even though this thing is going to be on the ballot, even though this thing is going to be challenged if we win, they said to continue building the new IRS in the Washington Department of Revenue. He writes the full section. It is the intent of the legislature for the Department of Revenue to spend appropriate amounts to implement this act regardless of litigation. So even while courts decide whether the tax is constitutional, the state keeps building it. The Department of Revenue's own fiscal note, roughly $55 million in fiscal year 2028, $78.6 million in fiscal year 2030, and about 220 staff by 2030, plus new computer systems for an income tax Washington has never had. All of it spent before any court says the tax is valid. And the state is already budgeting for the court fight. The Attorney General's office, public fiscal note, staffs a defense starting in fiscal year 2027 and growing to the attorneys plus paralegals every year thereafter with direct litigation costs penciled in annually, permanently, which means they're going to keep appealing and appealing and appealing and appealing. Even if we win, they're going to keep coming back at it again and again and again. Section 1107 declares the tax necessary for the support of the state government and its existing public institutions. That way, they block a referendum. Section 1101 quietly amends I-2111, the 2024 law banning income taxes, to add that the ban does not apply to this tax. So your ban on income taxes, which the Washington State Legislature voted into place because you guys went out and got enough signatures to make sure to get that sucker in front of them. Yeah, they amended it to say this thing about income taxes, we're not going to listen to it. Or in the words of Turd Ferguson,
yeah, well, who gives a damn?
This is what they are doing. They don't want your vote. They just want your money. That's what the Democrats are pushing forward with, the greedy you-know-whats. Meanwhile, they're also putting your public safety at risk. You guys know about McNeil Island, right? If you don't know about McNeil Island, here's a little commercial we used to run about them.
Washington State's McNeil Island is a beautiful long vacation destination for level 3 sex offenders. Now, Jay Inslee, Bob Ferguson, and Washington Democrats are bringing the experience to your neighborhood. Department of Corrections Tours is sending the offenders to beautiful halfway houses with no guards and no security on sprawling properties in rural residential areas. Who needs safety when you can feel good about yourself with virtue signaling? If you're asking yourself, how can I be part of the fun? Chances are you are already. No one is informing the neighbors. So look out your window and find out if you've been selected as one of the lucky recipients of a level 3 sex offender in your neighborhood. This message unfortunately not sponsored by the Department of Corrections and the Department of Social and Health Services. May the odds ever be in your favor.
Now, as much as that's a joke parody, it happened again. And to one of the same neighborhoods last time. Level 3 sex offender Robert Loff, according to Fox 13, was released from McNeil Island to an Enumclaw neighborhood on July 8th. Nobody told the neighbors. A judge approved his release after experts determined he is no longer sexually violent. However, he refused sex offender treatment and has a history of prison violence. And yet they said this guy could leave. Loff has an extensive history of violent and drug-related offenses dating back to 1973. 1973. So this guy is not rehabilitated. He's worse than ever. He's a level 3 sex offender, which make him the most likely to reoffend by federal standards. And they released him into Enumclaw. Released him into Enumclaw. Now, even though experts for the prosecution and defense determined that he is predisposed to commit future violent acts, they said, even though he's violent, he's not sexually violent anymore. Are you kidding me with this? Really? And yet they just let this guy out of jail, released him into a halfway house. He was convicted of first-degree rape, first-degree attempted murder in 1986. He met a woman at a bar in Renton. After some games of pool, lured her into his van, drove out to the highway, raped her, choked her unconscious, then tried to stab her to death. She woke on the side of the road hours later where she was spotted by a passing driver who took her to the hospital. She was treated for severe trauma, 15 internal wounds, 2 black eyes, and a broken eye socket. During surgery, a portion of her colon had to be removed. She suffered severe injuries that resulted in lifelong internal damage. And they're releasing this guy. He reportedly described himself as a monster for 5 minutes and attributed the attack to drug use, saying it was a mixture of cocaine and heroin known as a speedball. Aside from that, he has a long history of violent crimes and drug crimes stretching from 1973 to 1986. He was also convicted of third-degree assault while incarcerated. And this is the guy you guys decide to release from prison? A forensic psychologist wrote, it would not be surprising if upon release he was engaged in future acts of violence. Are you kidding me with this? He also accumulated dozens of disciplinary infractions while confined to the Special Commitment Center. By the way, there's like 20 people on that thing. And yet he was still getting into trouble. He was also found illegally in possession of a cell phone and child sexual exploitation material in 2023. So you don't think he's going to offend again? This is the guy you guys want to release. Bob Ferguson and Tim Walsh, they love releasing sex offenders. This is the Democrat MO. It's absolutely insane. They want your money. They don't want you to be safe. This is what the Democrats want for Washington State. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. When you look at these options, you wonder, what are the Republicans going to put up in 2028? They going to be good? They going to be bad? They going to be something else? J.D. Vance went on Joe Rogan's podcast and said some interesting things. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that if you want my voter's guide, head on over to kvi.com. It's right up there on the main page, or text the word VOTE to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757, and we will send one right over to you. And you got to know who to vote for, because some crazy things are happening in Congress. So just the other day, they had a vote regarding military aid to Israel. We discussed the military aid to Israel. But then Congressman Adam Smith, somebody who normally we go, well, at least he's a sane Democrat, he joined the Democrats in voting to defund Israel. So even though he acknowledges what's going on with Israel and how they're fighting for their lives, basically, now you have this issue where he's saying, well, I support them, but I don't really support them, but I'm not going to vote to support them. Let's be real. He's fighting against two anti-Israel jihadi candidates, and he's worried about his job. Well, Senator John Fetterman could not be clearer about where he stands on the issue.
Anti-Israel, and I've described that if our party ever becomes, and just make it official as the anti-Israel party, that's when I would leave, because that's been a moral clarity for me.
It's amazing that the guy with the brain injury is the only clear-headed Democrat that we have. However, we've got our own problems on the right side of the aisle. J.D. Vance was on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day. And when he was talking, some stuff he said I agreed with, some stuff he said I disagreed with, but there's some troubling things in this interview. So while Marco Rubio was giving that stellar speech against Antifa, against domestic terrorism, against far-left terrorism, J.D. Vance was on Joe Rogan. Now, here's what J.D. Vance said. We'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I've even heard people say he was blackmailed into this by the Israelis. That's not true, dude. It's just not true. I've seen the decision making up close. Again, whether you agree or disagree with our negotiation, or whether you agree or disagree with the decision to launch the campaign Epic Fury to begin with, the idea that Donald Trump is being blackmailed is crazy to me. Because again, I see the way that he makes decisions. I see the way that he processes this stuff. Like the idea that he picks up the phone with anybody and says, hey, I'm going to take orders from you. No, that's just not how Donald Trump operates.
That's good, J.D. Vance. That's good. Because that was always one of the craziest things. Oh, yeah, Donald Trump's being blackmailed. He doesn't care. Yeah, you're going to blackmail Donald Trump? No, that was always nonsense, complete nonsense. And then he said this.
Does the socialism thing scare me? Yes. Is it the wrong solution? Yes. But one thing I try to persuade my fellow Republicans of is socialism is the alternative if we don't have a pathway to give people a sense that the system is not rigged and that the American dream is attainable. That's like our job. That's what we have to do. I'm not saying Rome was built in a day. It's not going to be easy to undo some of these economic trends. But man, we ran the experiment. We ran the experiment of offshoring all of our industrial jobs, of becoming a services and finance economy, and allowing Wall Street to come in and buy every asset of modern life and turn it into an investable, line goes up asset. And what has that done? It's created a generation of kids who kind of are attracted to socialism. We have to fix that problem.
Well, kids that do feel, and you're correct, and I agree with you, the system is rigged. Kids feel like there are no options other than to burn it down.
Yes.
And that's the problem. And because they feel very frustrated.
And this is part of our job, is to provide an option that isn't burn it down, but is not just doing the same things that we've done for the past.
They're also
40 years.
Okay. All right. Hang on a second here. Here's the issue with this. You're saying socialism is bad, and you're saying you understand why these kids think the system is rigged, but then you go and blame Wall Street? I'm not saying there aren't problems with Wall Street. I'm not saying there aren't issues with hedge funds buying up houses, driving up housing costs. But the bigger problem is the fact that cities like Seattle won't let you build anywhere, so there's less supply for you to actually buy. And yet you're blaming Wall Street. To me, that sounds like you're not saying that much different from what the socialist types are saying. Give me a solution for how you're actually going to fix it. Tell me what the actual problem is. Otherwise, it kind of sounds like you're just blaming Wall Street. That wasn't all he said.
But I definitely think you have seen this very discreet, extremely well-funded campaign to try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal. And, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government.
Wait a second. Okay. I pulled up this Time magazine article he's talking about. When's the last time you heard a conservative quote Time magazine? That's number one. Number two, you think that the reason your Iran memorandum of understanding fell apart is because Israelis, a.k.a. Jews, were paying people to bash it online? Let me tell you something. Nobody had to pay me to bash that deal online. It was a terrible deal. The MOU fell apart because it was a bad deal. And in fact, I gave him benefit of the doubt. I said maybe he was doing this so that it would fall apart. And then, just like with the Abraham Accords, when the Trump administration offered the Palestinians everything they could have possibly wanted and they still rejected it, they went to the Arab partners and they said, look, you're never going to get a peace deal with these guys. How about we do the Abraham Accords? And it worked. I even gave J.D. Vance the benefit of the doubt and said maybe he's doing that. Maybe he's playing that role that Jared Kushner played the last time around to get a better deal with the Arab countries. Instead, J.D. Vance is now saying, no, he thought the deal was actually going to work. And Israel undermined it? You can't make deals with terrorist organizations. This is how it was always going to end.
And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country.
No, we weren't attacking you personally. We were attacking the deal and saying how bad the deal was and what a mistake it was. And where are we right now? The deal did not fail because of Jewish money influencing social media. The deal failed because you try to make deals with terrorists. And what do we say in every single action movie that's ever been made? We don't negotiate with terrorists.
So
what is their position? Like, they're attacking you how?
Oh, it's social media posts. It's they're leaking to reporters. They're attacking me obsessively, saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran. We should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely. And
not indefinitely, until unconditional surrender, which is what your boss, President Trump, promised. Now, do I think a peace deal is good? Absolutely. But this deal was always going to fail because right out of the gate, before Iran did anything, you were relieving sanctions on the oil. Right out of the gate. It was doomed to failure. Doomed to failure. And the Iranians were just thinking, how long can we bide our time before they start bombing us again? What can we accomplish in the meantime? This deal was fraud, was failed from the beginning.
That is their explicit position. And coming after me saying that, people have come after me and say that I'm influenced by Qatar, that I'm influenced by foreign governments, that, I take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson. And there's just so much bullshit out there when what I'm actually trying to do is accomplish what the President of the United States.
Okay. So here's the thing, guys. He claims that there's all this BS out there. And yet we know that what's going on is he's literally repeating the exact same talking points. Look, I like J.D. Vance. I think J.D. Vance is brilliant, but that doesn't mean that just because I disagree with some of his policies, I hate him. In fact, what I was doing was not attacking him. I was attacking his policies. And now going on Joe Rogan and complaining that people are attacking his policies and his really bad MOU, that's the issue here, is that he's taking it personally when he doesn't see how bad the deal was from the beginning. So desperate to make a deal that he doesn't realize how bad the deal was, that he got us into a bad deal. And then you go blaming the Jews, you go blaming Israel. It was a bad deal. You didn't have to say yes to a bad deal. When we come back, my friends, who should you be voting for in this election? I've got my voter guide out for you, but also State Senator John Braun, who's in a really tight race against Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, will be joining us to give you the lay of the land with regards to the campaign. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. when you see poll after poll after poll after poll showing you the exact same results, it usually means that's the direction the race is heading in. And in Washington's 3rd Congressional District, poll after poll after poll shows neck and neck between the incumbent Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez and our friend, State Senator John Braun. And it actually shows he's leading in some of these polls as well, which is how unpopular that Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez is, that as an incumbent, she's losing support and losing support. In fact, this race has been rated one of the best pickup opportunities for Republicans nationally. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line, our friend, State Senator John Braun. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Ari, thanks for having me on. Always good to join you.
Great to have you. So when you're out there knocking on doors, when you're out there talking to people, when you're doing fundraisers, what are they frustrated about? What do they want you to fix?
Well, first of all, yeah, we're getting a terrific response. We're out meeting people where they are, listening to their concerns, understanding what's standing in their way for themselves, their families, their communities. And they're frustrated with the incumbent. They're frustrated that she likes to tell them what she thinks they'll like, but then there's very little action. And more important, than probably the most important thing they're worried about right now is affordability. And they've seen she's been no on tax reductions for them. She's been no on energy policy that drives down their cost of energy and all goods. So she's saying one thing, trying to get their support, but it's becoming increasingly obvious to folks across the district that she's not really there for them.
Now, what I find entertaining is this most recent poll. It's from the Northwest Progressive Institute. For those of you who don't know, this is a very left-leaning think tank, which their polling is, I don't want to say hit or miss, and I don't want to say accurate. It's somewhere in between. But they probably did this hoping to find different results than the other polling that's been done in this race, and they found exactly what everybody else is seeing, is that she's losing support, you're gaining momentum, and now it's a horse race.
Yeah, I mean, and they try to spin this poll like it's a good thing for her, but here's the reality. She's the incumbent. She has the name ID, both uninformed and informed. We're ahead. Now, it's not by much, and I think this is going to be a tight race, but I'd much rather be in my position than her position right now, because we're working hard, but we got a lot of opportunity in terms of building name ID, building folks who don't know me, who I've never represented before. And there's a lot of upside there in terms of votes in August and November, whereas she is well known and she's still falling behind.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's because nobody can point to anything she's actually accomplished. And also, it seems to be she licks her finger, holds it up into the breeze, and decides which way it's going because it's a purple district, which actually favors more red. And it was kind of a fluke she got elected the last 2 times, mainly because of who she was running against. But now she's running against somebody like you, somebody who's respected on both sides of the aisle, somebody who served in the U.S. military, somebody who has conservative principles, who has an ideology that most people align with, 80-20 issues, and she can't compete with that.
Yeah, we're just out there, with common sense, conservative positions that really are focused on solving people's problems. This isn't magic. In a position like this, you are elected to serve those who elected you and listen to them and actually get stuff done, not just talk about getting stuff done. And frankly, I think they're starting to get the sense that she's not being entirely candid with them. The most recent thing is her and frankly others in our state have done the same thing. They make this claim about they're not taking corporate money or corporate PAC money. It's entirely dishonest. What she does, what our governor does, is they go out and raise corporate money. They send it to a separate PAC, and then that PAC sends it to them. So, if I raise money for your producer, and then they give that to you, that's still me giving you money, and they're being dishonest about it. And I think the people of the state of Washington are starting to recognize that this is just a game they're playing to virtue signal that they're better than everybody else, when in fact they're not better. In fact, they're worse. They're not being plain about what they're doing.
In fact, I think it's more than that, because they always say, oh, we don't take any corporate money. And then I say, your union money is more than any Republican's corporate money. Every union represents a special interest, but we don't take corporate money. Why? Because they have a separate designation for their tax status? That makes them any different? No, they're spending millions of dollars on these campaigns. In the last few minutes, we have with John Braun, who is running in Washington's 3rd Congressional District. My voter's guide is up at KVI.com right now. He has my highest support, my highest endorsement, because I think he is the best man for the job. And I've worked with Senator Braun for a long, long time. He's been a great friend of the Jewish community. He's been a great champion of conservative values. This is our guy. So I see all this national polling. I see all this national attention. I see all this local polling. Would you say you're the top race being watched as a potential pickup seat right now? And are you seeing the support from the Republican Party nationally?
Yeah, we've made the case for a while now that we're the top pickup in the country, and I think that's bearing itself out. And I believe there's good reason to think others across the country, particularly in D.C., are seeing the same thing. We just in the last few months we've seen tremendous pickup and support at the national level, and that's going to be the key to winning the race. We had to start at the local level. I'm super proud of the work we've done in the district and in the state to build support. The excitement we have here, and that excitement is bringing additional help, additional excitement at the national level, which is what we need ultimately to win this race. So I think we're in a great path. We got more work to do, and more than anything, we need you people to show up and vote. But we're on a good path. We just got to keep doing the work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everything is looking in the right direction. Senator Braun, if people want to vote for you, if people want to support you, if people want to learn more about you, why don't you give us the website one time?
Yeah, come look us up at www.votebraun.com, VOTEBRAUN.com. Thank you very much.
Senator, really do appreciate it. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, while the kids are out of school, the teachers' unions are having their big national conferences. So what exactly are they doing at these things? Well, it's like somebody told Randy Weingarten, the unhinged lunatic who runs these unions, said, more energetic, be more energetic, and then you get this.
And when we do, when we bend that arc, we will change the trajectory of this nation and secure a better future for all, from sea to shining sea. Thank you so much, AFD.
Okay, crazy lady. Calm down. What else did she say during these incredible remarks?
The throwing out of so much stuff that people just throw up their hands and say, oh no, what are we going to, all I want to do is stay home. And for those of us who drink, have a glass of wine, or for me, some vodka.
This may explain a lot. So the head of the teachers union is day drunk at home. Okay, on vodka. Wonderful. Fantastic. This explains so much now, because only a drunk person would propose some of these things. For example, her teacher union committee recommended a resolution to continue hiding things from parents and also condemning passage of the Stopping Indoctrination and Protecting Kids Act. That's what they're up to. Corey DeAngelis got a hold of all this stuff. He said the teachers union committee recommended a resolution declaring May 1st a day of civic action for political protests. Oh, you mean like they did last year? May Day. Let's go riot with all the crazies. Yes. They want students to do trainings, political education, marches, and rallies. They are training your kids to be political pawns. They are training your kids to be mini activists. Get your kids out of the public schools. They also recommended a resolution to stop groups informing teachers of their right to opt out of the union. In fact, they even mentioned Corey DeAngelis and Americans for Fair Treatment, which is encouraging teachers to leave the union. They recommended a resolution to stop groups informing teachers of their rights to opt out, but also parents and kids of their rights to opt out of this craziness. This is what the teachers union is doing with your kids. Oh, remember how Randy Weingarten was using the union dues from her teacher friends to publish her own book and get it out there? What's happening with that thing, by the way?
As many of you know, Why Fascists Fear Teachers, in partnership with the AFT, and half of the proceeds, actually more than half, but half of the proceeds are going to the union's education, not-for-profit, and to the disaster relief fund. But it is troubling.
Oh, wait a second. So that's what you announce after you find out you're being investigated by the feds for misusing the teacher dues? Isn't that nice? 50%. 50%. Isn't that nice? The money you paid for 100% of your book with, 50% of it's going to the union. Very nice.
That the congressional and any congressional investigation can be triggered by something so biased, so flawed, so inaccurate, but that is the world we live in. And so we will handle this investigation like we have handled the other four, and we have confidence that it will end exactly like the others with nothing to show for it. But I wanted to make clear, since it happened last week, the situation right now. So
now, by the way, you wouldn't acknowledge that unless you're getting flack from her. What do you mean you used our union dues to write a book? What do you mean you used our union dues to publish a book? And by the way, if you're using the dues, those teachers are paid with federal money. And you're using their dues? We know how biased these guys are. Oh, and Washington got a little mention at one of these conferences. This was the National Education Association, the other big teachers union. This was last week. Here's what they were bragging about.
And Washington State, outraged by the unfair and unjust tax system, educators fought to put a millionaire's tax into law.
That's what they're bragging about. at the teachers union, putting a tax on all of us. That's what they're doing. Get your kids out of these schools. Get out of the union. By the way, these weren't the only conferences that were going on. We've told you a little bit about the crazy stuff that the Democrats were inserting into their platform here in Washington. Well, Pramila Jayapal was there talking to them. Pramila Jayapal, that's right. She was very, very excited to be talking to everybody at the Democratic convention locally. And here's one of the gems of what she said.
Impossible. I was just out there campaigning in Michigan for a candidate that I'm supporting, Abdul El Sayed, and it was electric. I got to tell you, everywhere we went, it was electric. He is leading in the polls, and I believe we have a real opportunity to turn things around in states that we may not have been able to imagine before.
It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. It's electric. The energy out there for the Hamas supporter. It's electric for the guy who supports terrorism. Yeah, you might say he's the bomb. Yeah, it's electric, my friends. Really, really electric. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is the kind of stuff they're all excited about there. This is what they're all excited about at the Democratic National Convention. They're all cheering for that. I remember when Kamala Harris was in town for her book tour, and I decided to go undercover, find out what she was talking about at her little book tour. And I remember that night was the primary. That was the big primary last year. And Zoran Mamdani had just been elected, and the whole room cheered like clapping seals that a socialist, Marxist, communist jihadi had just won the election in New York. Why? Because he's got a D next to his name? Is that why? Just because he's got a D. He is not a Democrat. But that's how excited they were that he got elected, that they were cheering and cheering and cheering. And Kamala Harris was excited about it too. Kamala Harris was thrilled about it. That wasn't the only thing that they said at this Democratic convention.
Impossible. I was just out there campaigning in Michigan for a candidate that I'm supporting, Abdul El Sayed.
Wait, we talked about him already. Anyway, she was talking about how she was bragging about how they were going to stop the initiatives, how they were going to fight to make sure parents don't have the right to know what their kids are doing at school, and how they were going to fight to keep boys in girls' sports. That was the other big thing they were bragging about. This is your modern-day Democrat Party. Is this really what you want to be a part of? This is how the radicals, like the jihadis, always seize power. How do they do it? Through the so open-minded their brains fall out left. How do they do it? By the useful idiots of the left. This is how they do it every single time. This is how they seize power. By the clapping seals in that room that are applauding that a guy who supports terrorism in Michigan is leading in the polls. By applauding that a guy who supports terrorism won the election in New York. By applauding that a member of Al-Qaeda is one of the nominees who's probably going to be a congressman from New Jersey. And this is what everybody's excited about? This is what they're thrilled about? Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, final hour free for all. Your texts, your thoughts, your stories, plus more on the upcoming election, because I know a bunch of you just got your ballots. We'll have that and a whole lot more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Katie Wilson is hiring for her office. You want to make six figures real easy? I'm not sure how easy that interview is going to be, but then again, think about who you're going to be up against. But before we get to any of that, my friends, Olive Garden is now more secure than federal elections. I kid you not. Olive Garden now more secure than federal elections. Because to get their never-ending pasta pass, you need to show ID. You need to show ID. A post from the restaurant has gone viral, according to the Post Millennial, after the chain said its new never-ending pasta deal will require that pasta pass holders have a photo ID. So that's because if you have a pasta pass, they don't want you giving your pasta pass to somebody else and then coming in and using it. In response to an ex-user thinking if a pass holder can use the never-ending pasta pass to order food for their family and others at their table, the restaurant chain responded, no. The never-ending pasta pass is only for use by the pass holder whose name is printed on the pass. Passes are personalized and non-transferable. Pass holders must present a valid photo ID along with the pass at the time of the ordering. That's right. Olive Garden, now more secure than federal elections. Olive Garden, now more secure than elections in Washington State. In fact, you know what else is more secure than Washington State elections? Snoqualmie, the ski passes. I know this firsthand. I will tell you how. So, I'm taking my kids up to Snoqualmie. We used to do it all the time when the kids were younger. And this is when my daughter's getting to be a teenager. So she's skiing with a couple friends of hers, and I'm sitting in the lodge. I think I was working on a story that day that I really wanted to get out. Normally, I go skiing when the kids go skiing, but I'm working in the lodge. And I said to the kids, if you need anything, I am in the lodge. What happens? I'm sitting there minding my own business, and my daughter comes running in. Dad, I forget what the other kid's name who was with her. Bobby got caught. Bobby got caught. I go, what do you mean Bobby got caught? And she goes, Bobby was using his dad's ski lift pass, and they checked his ID, and it didn't match. And I'm like, wait a minute. You sent this kid up to the mountain with you're too cheap to buy a ticket for your own kid. You sent them with your pass, and now I got to deal with it. So now Dad's not here. I got to deal with it. So what happens? I have to, the ski patrol comes in. Is this your son? No, but he came up with me. You know, oh, his parents did this. I had nothing to do with it. They're like, we understand, sir. Come with us. They suspended the parents' pass, I think, and made the kid pay a fine. I'm like, I ain't paying that for you. He's like, I got my dad's credit card. It's fine. That's right. Snoqualmie lift tickets, more secure than federal elections. The pasta pass at Olive Garden, more secure than federal elections. The Post talking about the photo ID requirement at Olive Garden has gone viral, with many saying that Olive Garden's never-ending pasta deal is now more secure than elections in states where no photo ID is required. Kevin, how is the pasta over at the Olive Garden? I don't eat at the Olive Garden. That's not where I go. That is not my thing. Not kosher also.
I mean, you know how it is.
It's fine, is what you're going to say.
Yeah.
This is a never-ending...
It's a family quick service restaurant. It's fine.
But it looks so nice and pretty. It's called Olive Garden. You're telling me you're not getting fine cuisine at the Olive Garden?
Look, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just telling you, you're not missing out on a whole lot. But I'll tell you, the soup, salad, and breadsticks for lunch, it's like $7 or $8, all you can eat.
That's amazing.
It's like 3 or 4 different soups.
What kind of soup are we talking about here? Like butternut squash or like things like that?
You got like a minestrone. You've got pasta fajoule. You've got like 3 or 4. So it's pretty decent.
Are
man.
those breadsticks good too?
Oh yeah.
See. Okay. Don't tell me it's fine when you say that about the breadsticks and you're all excited about the lunch deal. I am living vicariously through you, my friend. Okay. Don't tell me it's just fine. I know you people are hiding this stuff from me. Anyway, so now that we know that pasta pass is more secure than federal elections at Olive Garden. Now that we know that the lift tickets at Snoqualmie are more secure than federal elections, President Trump on Thursday revealed a bunch of classified intelligence documents that have been declassified that expose longstanding vulnerabilities in America's election infrastructure, with files beginning to be released, including allegations that China obtained $220 million U.S. voter records and that foreign adversaries, dear boy, have the capability to compromise election systems. So, during the primetime address, Trump announced the declassification of intelligence assessments and government reports from January 2020 through June 2026. And the documents detail cyber threats involving electronic voting machines, ballot counting systems, voter registration databases, electronic poll books, and official election websites. He said the administration was releasing the records in an effort to restore public confidence in the electoral process. Now, mind you, I watched the speech. I looked at the documents. For me, this is a massive data breach. That's what I'm looking at this time. So what you're saying, it was a massive data breach. And because they didn't want Trump claiming the election was stolen, the deep state basically said, we're not going to acknowledge this at all, because then it might give Trump some credibility. There was a massive data breach, according to these documents. And there's a lot more than just that. Here's what Secretary Markwayne Mullin found with the Department of Homeland Security.
So first of all, Department of Homeland Security, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in just 4 states. Mind you, we have 46 other states. And just 4 states, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada. We also worked with proactive states to identify 28,000 non-citizens on their voter rolls, plus 400,000 individuals that are still registered to vote that are deceased. Now, these 23 states, they proactively worked with us on the SAVE program. That's Georgia, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, North Carolina, Idaho, Alabama, Missouri, Louisiana, Kansas, Arkansas, Wyoming, Montana, Iowa, Florida, South Dakota, Indiana, Arizona, South Carolina, Utah, Nebraska, Michigan, and my great home state of Oklahoma.
So, states that were red worked with him on this, and some blue states worked with him on this. And they already found problems. Why do you think states are refusing to turn over their data? By the way, wasn't just China who was interfering in our elections, who was hacking this, who got a hold of this massive data breach. Markwayne Mullin says, who else managed to get this data?
We know that Iran hacked our state voter files and attempted to compromise, is the best word I can use, our systems where military members used to vote. So we're working with Secretary Hegseth and the DOW to safeguard those systems and protect our military voters. What's frustrating again in this is that the Biden administration knew this. And our intel community knew this. And not only did they withhold it from President Trump in his first term, but they withheld it, it looks like, President Biden in his term. They withheld this information from the public. They withheld it from Congress. That should never happen again. And because of President Trump's leadership, we're not allowing that to happen. We're telling the American people not to scare them, but to ensure them that we are watching it. We're taking it serious. We will secure our elections.
So basically what you're saying is the deep state was withholding this from everybody? These are declassified documents we're looking at here. This isn't just, well, I think this is happening. In addition to the China-related allegations, the administration released intelligence that it said was obtained by the CIA regarding an alleged 2020 plot by the Maduro regime in Venezuela to digitally manipulate vote totals during that country's election. Now, this is fascinating to me. And this was something the administration did not mention, but this triggered a little thing in my brain. I had a little memory. What was that? Do you remember the Chicago Teachers Union? One of the biggest teachers unions in the U.S. The Chicago Teachers Union came on my radar during COVID. Why? Because when all these parents are like, the kids got to get back to school, and all these politicians are saying the kids got to get back to school in the red states, the Chicago Teachers Union was saying, no, we're not going back. While the head of the union was vacationing in the Bahamas and posting pictures. She was saying it was too dangerous to go back to school, but you can be in the Bahamas and you can be posting pictures. So we started looking into this gal. And what did we find out? She's a radical communist who's head of the teachers union in Chicago. But more so than that, this was a person who bragged about being an election observer in Venezuela during Maduro's election. So the one where he lost, don't forget. But also, let's remember that there were lots of allegations of fraud and trying to manipulate the voter totals. You had teachers from the United States going down there. By the way, it wasn't just him. There were teachers it wasn't just her. There were teachers in Washington going down there as well. The random things you maintain in your knowledge. According to the White House, the intelligence described methods developed to alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected with an audit. Trump also called on federal agencies to investigate why the intelligence remained classified and whether officials should face criminal consequences. He's not wrong, by the way. If these guys kept it from both administrations, you should definitely check it out. And meanwhile, the Trump administration also announced Thursday that has finalized a rule ending a decades-old immigration policy that allowed many foreign students and exchange visitors to remain in the United States indefinitely without periodically renewing their immigration status, with an overall maximum visa stay of 4 years. Let's take my son for a minute. My son went to college in Israel, and he would come home for the summer breaks and such. We would always have to renew his visa, always have to redo the paperwork. You can't just keep coming and going and going and coming. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in most countries in the world, but for some reason, a guy like Mahmoud Khalil, the terrorist supporter, who's been a student longer than John Belushi in Animal House, who says 7 years of college down the drains. How long was Mahmoud Khalil in college at Columbia? What was it, like 14 years, 17 years? We have all these terrorist supporters who are on these college campuses in our country for more than a decade. How long does it take to finish school? My son did school in 3 years, 2 majors, 2 minors. I feel like I got my money's worth out of that college. I really do. Mahmoud Khalil has been there for this long, and he managed to take over one dorm and one school building and managed to assault a whole bunch of Jewish kids, allegedly, I have to say allegedly, and pass out a whole bunch of Hamas material on campus. Oh, great. Wonderful. Looks like he really accomplished it. Did you get a degree during all that? Yes, no, maybe so? Now, what actions are being taken aside from shutting down this ridiculous system? Well, the Department of Homeland Security said the new regulation eliminates the duration of status framework for FJ and I non-immigrant visa holders, replacing it with fixed admission periods and requiring additional federal review for those seeking to remain in the country beyond their authorized stay. Have you noticed this also? Anytime you hear about a terrorist leader like Yahya Sinwar or any of these guys, educated at Harvard, educated at Columbia. So they use our education to go and do awful things against this country and our allies in the Middle East. Great. Maybe we should vet them a little bit before we just let them come here. Now, why do colleges like these guys so much? Because usually they pay full tuition. They're not eligible for a lot of these scholarships. They pay full tuition and colleges want the money. According to the DHS, the new rule is intended to strengthen national security, reduce immigration fraud, restore federal oversight of student visa holders. Quote, for nearly half a century, the outdated duration of status system has compromised national security and created an environment ripe for immigration fraud. You do know it's been almost a quarter of a century since 9/11. Sorry I made a whole bunch of you feel older. We still haven't dealt with this. You know, a lot of those hijackers got in on student visas. On student visas. And yet we still allow this practice. Now, DHS also sent letters to secretaries of state in 4 states warning them about tens of thousands of non-citizens who are illegally on the state's voter rolls, as he mentioned before. 190,832 in California, 35,152 in New Jersey, 15,903 in Nevada, 14,576 in Pennsylvania. Now, they don't allege that these people have actually been voting, but they are alleging that they're on the voter rolls, and they want to work with them in order to get rid of them. Democrats seem to be taking a different approach on this. Here's Timo Obama, Hakeem Jeffries.
We've also made clear that Donald Trump's violent mass deportation machine doesn't get a dime from House Democrats. That was our position this year. And unless things change next year in terms of the way in which ICE conducts itself, Our position as House Democrats, I assume, is not going to change.
So what you're saying is basically you're not going to fund ICE, you're not going to fund border security, and you're not going to deport terrorists and convicted felons. You're not going to do it. Can anybody explain to me which part of our population likes that? Which part of our population? The far, far left woke and the terrorists and the convicted felons and the drug dealers and the human traffickers. They're the ones who enjoy this. Nobody else seems to enjoy this. Beyond crazy. Absolutely beyond crazy. But this tells you what is at stake heading into this election. What's at stake is the Democrats shutting down the Trump agenda or continuing the Trump agenda. Now, over at KVI.com right now, I have my voter's guide. Now, as I say at the top of the voter's guide, I want you to do your own research. You should be looking into your own research. You should be doing your own research. But if you're a little confused or you need some help or you don't know who to choose, then head on over to KVI.com. You've got my list of recommendations up there. You have them. Now, I did not endorse in every race. I did not give recommendations in every race because there's so many races, I don't even know about all of them. So if you have a question, you want me to look into a specific race, you email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com, and I will look into it for you. But if you want this thing sent directly to your phone, text the word VOTE, VOTE, text the word VOTE to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And that way, we will send it directly to your phone. You will get an email from me, or you can pull it off kvi.com. And remember, if you have questions, you email me, ari@kvi.com, because I couldn't dig into every race, but some races I can help you out in. I will be adding more of the King County races for sure, especially because I'm going to be opening my ballot this weekend, and I'll be going through it as well. But if you have any questions, remember, just text the word VOTE to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We'll send it right over to you. Up next, my friends, Katie Wilson, looking to hire a new communications director. Could be you. And you can make $272,000. Why are we spending our tax money on that? Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, head on over to KVI.com. You can get my voter's guide over there. You can also sign up to become a KVI insider. And I believe the email with my voter's guide is going out on Monday, I think. But if you want to see it early, it is over there up at KVI.com right now. You can check it out. Sign up to become a KVI insider. You'll find out about all the events, all the contests, and everything else going on while you are there. Also, you can get the podcast, so that way you never miss a minute of the show. Remember a couple of years ago, I said, hey, why are all the 7-Elevens closing around here? And you guys said, no, that's not happening. And I said, well, there's none left where I live anymore. Some of them went to off-brand type 7-Elevens, but I noticed a whole bunch of them were closing down. Turns out 7-Eleven closing down 645 stores across the U.S. Their latest quarterly earnings report included a presentation, according to Fox News, about the company's various initiatives, including restructuring of its store network amid the closure plans, as well as conversion, remodels, and new openings. It said that plans to close 200 unprofitable 7-Eleven stores in fiscal year 2026, with 45 stores closed to date. I do love that I sent them a request for comment like 3 years ago about this. They didn't get back to me. The company also said it plans to convert 350 of its convenience stores to wholesale fuel sites in the fiscal year because the gas stations must be more profitable. 7&I Holdings is planning to convert 390 stores to franchises this fiscal year and has done 43 to date. Despite the company's pullback, it is also pursuing selective expansion and planning on opening 205 stores this year. Now I kind of want to see the map of which ones are closing, which ones are staying open. Overall, the plans outlined by the company earlier this year show a total number of 7-Eleven stores in the U.S. declining from 12,712 to, let's see, as of February it's a net loss of about 440 stores is what we're looking at. In 2024, they had 13,000 stores, so it's just going down. So it seems like they're converting them over to the gas station model, or they're closing a whole bunch of them that just aren't profitable anymore. I know at the one near my house, burned to the ground. That's right, burned to the ground. What happened was there was a 7-Eleven and there was a Baskin-Robbins. And it was in a bad neighborhood. It wasn't that great on Rainier Avenue. And what happened was on Rainier Avenue, anytime a place went empty, where a business moved out or a business closed, the homeless moved in and then promptly would burn it to the ground. It was pretty awful in these places. I mean, basically treating them as homeless encampments. They would go in, they would hack the power. There was a time where I saw the ones living in the 7-Eleven hack the power of what used to be an oil change place across the street and were running extension cords across streets. Across streets, just running them right across. There were rats everywhere. And then after these things burn, well, first the landlords would say to the city, you got to do something about the homeless people. And the city would say, those are your properties. You got to do something about the homeless people. And then these things would burn to the ground. And then the city wouldn't let them do anything about it because they'd say, well, you haven't done rat remediation. This is the kind of stuff under Bruce Harrell. This stuff was happening, by the way, my friends. I can't even blame Katie Wilson for this insanity. This stuff was happening under Bruce Harrell. That's right. It was. And then I noticed place after place after place was burning down. So what happens? There's a fire in the old 7-Eleven where the homeless have moved into. Baskin-Robbins is still open, but then Baskin-Robbins goes, no, we're done. We're out of here. When half the building burns down, it's nice that you saved our Baskin-Robbins, but no. Plus, I can't remember the last time I took my kids there. The closest Baskin-Robbins to my house now is in Renton. I got to drive out to Renton if I want a milkshake, or South Center. Those are the two closest Baskin-Robbins I got to go to now. This is why we can't have nice things, because the homeless go everywhere. Now, meanwhile, do you want to try and change things from the inside? Do you want to be part of the administration? Well, Katie Wilson put up this post. Work with Mayor Katie Wilson. We're hiring a new communications director, Mayor's Office, City of Seattle. For more information and to apply, visit governmentjobs.com/careers/Seattle. Now, it might be worth it, because the starting salary ranges from $164,868.48 to $272,087.28 annually. Why is Katie Wilson's director of communications worth more than $250,000 a year? Somebody want to explain that one to me? You're almost making as much as the mayor herself, which I don't think she should be paid that much. $272,000. Okay. Well, you know, I always say radio money ain't TV money. Radio money ain't City of Seattle money. I think I should apply. I think I should go in there. I think I should put on green hair wig because dyeing my hair would just look silly because there's not that much of it. I think I should wrap myself in a pride flag. I think I should identify. Maybe I should wear a dress. I should identify as transgender. I should go on. And guess what? I might be able to be the director of communications for Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson. How hard could it really be to be the director of communications for Katie Wilson? All you got to do is say to Chris Daniels, nope, nope, nope. All you got to do is make sure the staff never responds to emails. That's what they do right now. They never respond to emails from people they don't like. Just say no. And occasionally you write a press release about something dumb the mayor did and try to sell it as a good thing. You can use ChatGPT for this. This is the easiest job on the planet. I want this job. Or you know it'd be even more fun? As opposed to that, I get the job. And then Chris Daniels comes up to me. Ari, can you comment on the mayor's plan? And I go, yeah, it's stupid. I'm sorry, Ari. What exactly? It's a bad plan. It's a terrible, no good, very bad plan. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's terrible. Look, lady be crazy. She be cray-cray. She's not good at this. She has no prior experience. It's a dumb plan, and it's not going to work, and you can quote me on it. Am I jeopardizing my opportunity to be hired by the mayor's office right now? I think I might be. Yeah, I think I should just go on. Let's see. What boxes do I check? Well, white guy, that's working against me. Oh, you know my favorite thing about this? You need ID to apply. You need multiple forms of ID to prove who you are. You need ID for the paperwork. Oh, I should go through the process just for the radio content. All right, I'm taking a few weeks off. I'm going to go apply to work for the mayor's office. That's what we're going to do. Apply to work for the mayor's office. Follow my travels at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram. The Hoffather over on X. This will be so much fun. I don't have to take the weeks off. You think they're ever actually going to call me in for an interview? No way. No way. If they do, I should take a microphone with me. I mean, I got to tell them, hey, I'm recording you guys just for posterity, for use on my show. This would be so much fun. Can you imagine it? Mr. Hoffman, why do you want to work at the mayor's office? Because you guys are paying $272,000 a year. Is there any other reason? No, not really. You guys are paying $200,000. Is that before benefits or after benefits? Okay, $272,000 a year. Excellent. And I only have to be in office 3 days, 2 days of remote work. This sounds great. This sounds like the best job ever. Sign me up. I will do it. What do you guys think? What else do you think I should do to make sure I can get this job in the mayor's office? Give us a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, Lars will be unleashed. That's right. Lars and I are going to talk about the president's address last night and more things that were revealed that you may have missed because ABC, NBC, and all these other networks weren't carrying it because they're children. I'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And quick fact check regarding the president's speech. AP News, who needs to be fact checked regularly, but AP News has who aired and who didn't air the speech. So let's call it out. ABC did not interrupt primetime programming on its broadcast network. The speech was available on ABC News Live and ABC News Radio. Some local affiliates, such as some Sinclair-owned stations, chose to air it. This according to the AP. Right
there you go. Because we
Mhm.
flipped it over to Como when we were in the studio getting ready to leave. We were seeing how many. So it's the local affiliates' decision whether or not they wanted to roll with it.
Exactly.
But-
Remember that whole thing when some of their affiliates said we didn't want to have Jimmy Kimmel anymore? Remember after the Charlie
that's
Kirk
right.
show?
Yep.
Same kind of thing. So what's funny is we got some texts also saying, Ari, I was watching it over on Channel 4 on Como. That's why, because they're Sinclair-owned affiliates.
But they're saying, AP is saying that ABC National proper did not cut in on their programming.
Right. So if they were running, I don't know what TV show they were
Let's
running.
just say it would be Wheel of Fortune that they're
Let's
offering.
say it
at
was,
that
they
time.
didn't
Who
interrupt
knows?
Wheel of Fortune for the president's address. Let's say
Interesting.
that. Okay. Now, by the way, this is just dumb because why don't you get the clicks? Right? Or why don't you get the views? It's pretty stupid. NBC kept its scheduled primetime programming on the broadcast network. It streamed the speech on NBC News Now and later aired a news report after the address. CNN declined to carry the speech live, instead hosted a panel discussion and monitored the speech off air, reporting it with fact-checking and analysis. Fox News carried the speech live. CBS broke into programming to air much of the speech live, but cut away before it concluded, then transitioned to fact-checking and analysis. MS Now, formerly MSNBC, aired a substantial portion of the speech before returning to commentary and analysis. So there you go. I guess a lot of them probably decide to duck in when the president calls them out publicly. All right, actual good news in our good news section. This one here from Como News, a piece of the World Trade Center will make a stop at T-Mobile Park in Seattle on Friday as part of a nationwide tour commemorating the 25th anniversary of 9/11 and the many lives tragically lost. Tunnel to Towers Foundation is transporting a 21-foot, 16,900-pound steel beam recovered from the South Tower of the World Trade Center across 35 cities and 21 states. This is an interesting-looking truck. So it looks like a regular box truck. Of course, it has all the branding across it, but the sides open up and the beam is right there down the middle of it. So this thing's going to be at the hot corner on Occidental Avenue outside of T-Mobile Park with a police and fire escort at 4:30 p.m. starting today. So that thing's already there, and it should be there right now if you want to go see it if you're in the neighborhood and you're going to the Mariners game. A private ceremony will then take place inside the ballpark featuring remarks from Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes, Seattle Fire Chief Harold Scoggins. Okay, that kind of bothers me. I'll tell you why that bothers me. Because Chief Harold Scoggins is the one who was collaborating with Antifa regarding the autonomous zone. He worked with domestic terrorists. Who are you to give remarks on any of this kind of stuff? And he's also the one who didn't do anything when veterans who had to go fight the wars as a result of 9/11 were getting fired for not taking the jab. No, that pisses me off. That really, really bothers me. Just because you wear the uniform doesn't mean you're the right person to give the speech. That really, really bothers me. Stephen Seiler Jr., son of fallen FDNY firefighter Stephen Siller, who died on 9/11, will also make an appearance at a formal presentation of a steel flag to the city of Seattle. See, that's the way you do it. You don't need Harold Scoggins out there just because he wears the uniform. Tunnel to Towers Foundation hopes people who take part in the public viewing will reflect on the heroes, families, and first responders who sacrificed their lives on this dark day in American history. Quote, the opportunity, put your hand on it, the steel beam, and pray over it and feel the gravity of what occurred that day is an incredible opportunity, said Seiler Jr. ahead of the tour stop in Seattle. Before the start of Friday's Seattle Mariners game against the San Francisco Giants, a surprise veteran recognition and ceremonial pitch will take place on the field. The foundation's national journey began in May. After the stop in Seattle, the World Trade Center steel will arrive at the Utah State Capitol in Salt Lake City on July 23rd. You know what? Maybe I'll go down and check it out on my way home today. Yeah, I could take the 99 tunnel and go down that way. So maybe I'll go down and check it out on my way home. That's not bad. I'm not going to the game today. Actually, a friend of mine is in town, and he said could he get tickets to the Mariners game, and actually I had a few extra group leader tickets, but I didn't know it was a blackout date. I didn't realize the San Francisco Giants were so popular, but then, stupid me, didn't realize how many people moved here from San Francisco. So they're probably all going to the game to see the Giants play. They're not going to see the Mariners play. They're going to see the Giants game. Also, there's another exhibit in town. This is the one over at the Museum of History and Industry out there on Lake Union. They are touring some of our founding documents of our country. Actually, I think I have an appointment to go down and do an interview with them in August, right around the time of Seafair. I think I'm going down there. We'll do a video walkthrough. We'll put that up on social media. But yeah, let me see if I can go see the piece of the World Trade Center today when it's in Seattle. That would be something. Actually, last year, I went to the 9/11 Museum. My wife had never been there before. We'll save my wife's story. Maybe we'll actually have my wife on the show for her story heading into the 9/11 anniversary. But yeah, we'll do that because she was involved with the aftermath of that. But my wife and daughter and I, we all went down there to the 9/11 Museum. It's very, very powerful. So I'm kind of curious if this truck is just as powerful. I assume not as much as the museum, but we'll go check it out. I actually remember on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, I was running a youth program, and we had a whole bunch of the people who were affected in the aftermath of 9/11, like my wife, speak about it. We had some friends of mine who joined the military as a result of 9/11. We had them speak to the kids in the youth program, and I remember on Sunday night, which was the actual anniversary of 9/11, I think it was Sunday night, we went out to Alki Beach because one of our annual events was always going out to Alki Beach and doing the fun out there and playing volleyball and having a barbecue. And that's when I found out there was a Statue of Liberty out at Alki Beach. I didn't know it was there, but the way the bus was going, it went right past it, and the whole thing was lit up with candles for the 9/11 anniversary. I didn't even know the thing was there, and then I found out it was some New Yorkers who built the Statue of Liberty. It was a whole thing that's out there at Alki Beach. So that's actually how I learned that thing was out there. So this year, I can't believe it. It's been 25 years. 25 years. That's this year for 9/11. That's crazy. Kevin, I remember my first year on air, it was the 20th anniversary, and we did a whole bunch of special stuff. We were interviewing people who went to serve in the military because of it, people who were directly affected because of it. Our friend Tammy Michaels, who was there when it happened, we interviewed her. So maybe for the 25th anniversary, I should start thinking about doing something special for that. I think that actually may be an interesting, unique opportunity for the show. I also have to see what day of the week is September 11th. Hang on, let's do a quick check right here. Looking at the calendar. Hang on. Let's July, August, September. September 11th is a Friday. September 11th is a Friday. I actually think that'll work out perfectly. We'll do a nice thing for September 11th. Maybe we'll see who we can get on the show. Hey, we got Giuliani in the meantime since then. Maybe we'll see what he's up to and talk to him about that. Maybe he'll be in high demand for that. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see who else we can get. We'll do some looking into who else we can get about that. But that would actually be something. You know what? Maybe I'll actually reach out to the White House also. See who they can get us for that. We'll do some checking and see who. Maybe we'll put something special. I love when we workshop this stuff on air.
I was just going to say,
workshop this stuff on air.
This is riveting for the listener.
I'm sure they're going to love all of this. You guys have any suggestions? You text them over at 206-421-5757. I do love what they recommend I do to get that job at Katie Wilson's office. So this one says, if I show up naked on a bicycle with a keffiyeh and a backpack full of sex toys and fireworks, I'll get hired. Either that or I'll get thrown in jail is what's going to happen. Matt says, be careful, Ari. You're going to F around to get the job. Ari Hoffman, Zionist aggressor, conservative radio host, believes so much in Katie Wilson, he applied and became her new communications director. Okay, this may not be well thought out. Other people say I should just identify as an illegal alien, a criminal illegal alien, and that would be a shoo-in for Katie's 5-head comm director. That's great. This is going to work out swimmingly. I may be a product of my own success here if I actually end up applying for this job. You get a few drinks in me this weekend. You put a laptop in front of me. Maybe we'll make that happen. Don't forget, my friends, that if you want the Ari Hoffman Voters Guide, it is up now at kvi.com. Head on over to kvi.com. You don't see a race. You email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. I will get back to you most likely sometime on Sunday because I'm going to be signing off for Sabbath pretty soon. Don't forget, you can follow me over on social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on X. That's going to do it for us this week. Fear not, we'll be back on Monday with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.